Welcome to The Engaging Life, a podcast about using engagement equity to improve your relationship building skills in your personal and professional life. And now, here are your hosts, Brandon Suba and Angela Cheney.
Oh, hello there, Brandon.
Well, hi, Angela.
How are you doing today?
Doing great.
Good.
Doing great. A little warm. It's been a nice run of cool weather, so it was nice, but we're out
It
of
was
that.
terrible. I hated every
love cool
second
weather.
of it.
Oh, it was amazing.
Every second of it, I
Rain.
hated it. Hated it.
Sweating every day. It was neat.
I enjoy the sweating. So, unfortunately, summer's coming to an end. So,
It is. Back to
Happy-
school.
happy days are gone.
Happy days.
Basically,
No, they're
happy
not.
days are gone.
I'm a winter
Never-
guy, though. You know
never
I'm a
come
winter
again.
guy. We're very
Yeah,
opposite,
we're very
when it
opposite.
comes to what we enjoy as far as the seasons go.
Yes, and that's okay.
That is okay. That's why we get along so well.
It
Because
is.
you're a summer lady and I'm a winter guy.
Yeah, we do well. So, the topic today is something we don't talk about a lot
hmm
when it comes to engagement equity and giving value, but it's kind of the crux of the whole thing.
I remember when I was first really learning this, I think I even asked you, I'm like, so when do you not make deposits? And you go, keep reading, Brandon.
Yes.
And I did.
And so we're going to talk about the ask.
Mm.
And we're going to have to really enunciate throughout this entire episode because if you don't enunciate the ask,
It sounds like the ass.
you know what happens. So the ask is basically that 20% of what you're doing when you're not giving value 80% of the time. Did that make sense?
Yeah, the 80-20. Yeah,
Yeah,
punch,
yeah.
punch.
So-
Yeah, it's the jab.
20% is your jab or your right hook. Jab is the giving
Jabbing.
value.
Yeah, that's right. Hook.
Yeah, you
I've
can
never-
tell I don't box
Yeah, me
much.
neither.
I'm doing
Never.
a fist bump or
I don't think
something.
I've ever really punched anyone. I've been punched, but I've never
Have you?
punched.
I've never been a puncher or a punchee.
Yeah, I got punched once. It was like the neighbor kids. We were playing basketball, and I don't know how. And we weren't even like fighting, and he punched me. I went home. I
Cried.
all I no, I
Cried to your
did,
mama?
I did cry once I got to the house, but like I remember I chased him and I had him on the ground, and then I'm like, I'm not gonna hurt him. Like, this is not me. So I let him go and I walked away.
And then he went home and cried.
Some people would call me a wussy. I call it being me.
Oh, we'll see.
Being a wussy.
Yeah. So the ask is really important, and it's for numerous reasons, which we will get into. So like in sales, your ask is when you're actually asking the customer, the prospect, to take some sort of action. It doesn't have to be asking for the sale.
hmm
It could be asking for them to come to your open house. It could be for them asking them to come look at your new website. You know, anything that you're asking is an ask. When it comes to obviously family and friendships, and everybody kind of knows what asking for something looks like.
I think so.
And unfortunately, most people do the asking at least 80% of the time. And the giving of value, 20, there's a lot of inverted,
Well, what about the sales where like you always ask for the sale?
right?
Right?
They're not earning it. You have to
Yes.
earn it.
Yep.
You have to earn it, but then you have to ask in the correct way. Okay? It's not just asking. It's not like, oh, I've given value, so here's what I need. That's not how it goes. But first, I would like to go through the giving and receiving profiles. Okay, so this is Wayne Baker. This is from his book. So the giving and receiving profiles, the book is called All You Have to Do Is Ask. Very good book.
Oh, funny.
Highly recommended.
Right up the alley.
But first, you have your overly generous giver, which, at first sounds pretty cool, right? But
Right.
that's your doormat. They're admired for their good deeds, but they often fail to express what they need, so they miss out on ideas, opportunities, and resources that they need to be successful.
And they can get creepy after a while,
And
right?
they can get taken advantage of very, very
Yeah.
easily.
Yep.
And I also like to put in there that it is human nature to take advantage of people like this. It's not always the bullies and the takers that do it. At some point, you're just like, geez.
You will
Okay.
do this. Let's
Okay.
do it. Yeah.
Then you have your selfish taker. So
Mhm.
that's the other side of it. They are self-focused. They rarely repay the generosity that has been bestowed on them.
Mm.
Okay.
Mm.
And then you've got the lone wolf. These are individualists who value self-reliance, but they rarely seek or offer help. They're not
Okay.
giving value, and they're not asking. They're just like, I'll do it all myself.
I was gonna say that's me.
And again, all
But-
these nobody is totally one of them. You know, it can be in different situations, different relationships, or on Tuesdays, you're an overly generous giver. On Wednesdays, you're a selfish taker.
Yeah,
I just lost my notes.
Sounds like my life.
And then you've got the best one, which is the giver requesters. By giving help, they earn a reputation for generosity. And by seeking it, they receive the things that they need to succeed. And so not just that, but I gave an example in the book, the Engagement Equity book, right back here.
Mhm.
You can buy it. I'll
Look
probably just give you one if you want.
If you mention the Engaging Life podcast,
I'll give you a book.
you're probably
I'll
gonna
give you a book.
We'll both sign it.
Yes, it'll be fantastic. But I gave an example of me not making an ask and the way it turned out badly. Because I think you kind of get under the impression, if I just give all the time, it'll come back to me somehow, and I will be this wonderful, Mother Teresa. I almost said Pollyanna.
Pollyanna? No.
Mother Teresa. Well, Pollyanna was kind of a goody-goody, right?
I'm not going to say you're
You don't
dating yourself, but you're
I'm
kinda
dating myself.
yourself on that one.
So, funny story. I had a doll once, and you know how if you get dolls or stuffed animals, sometimes they have the name
Oh, yeah.
of it on the tag. And so I looked at the tag on it, and I'm like, Mom, my doll's name's Polyester. So
I thought you were going to say China, but polyester's even better.
so the doll's name was Polyester.
Poly.
Because it was made of polyester. Anyway, so I was doing blogging for a company, and we had decided, they were a video company, we had decided that I was going to do blogs for them in exchange for them doing a little marketing video for my Big Red Recipes cookbook that I was doing at the time. Okay? That was the agreement. So I'm blogging for them. It's fun. I'm enjoying it. And so then I do it for maybe, a month. And so they reach out to me. When would you like to do your video? I'm like, well, I'm not quite ready yet. I've got this going on. I didn't really know what I wanted for the video.
Right.
And they're like, okay, well, we have more blogs for you to do, but we're feeling kind of lopsided here. And I'm like, no, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. So I kept doing their blogs. And so, and their asks got more, their touches got more and more persistent. They're just like, no, seriously, we want to do your video.
Yeah.
And it got to the point where I never had them do the video, but I started doing their blogging because then the Big Red Recipes thing kind of went away. I got into something else. But they were getting nervous because I was giving too much value for nothing. So not only was it kind of cheapening my services because they're like, well, if she just gives this away,
what else can we get?
Is it really worth anything?
Oh, right.
And then also they're like, what if she thinks that we're not going to do this for her? What if she's talking bad about us because we're not fulfilling our, it got very, I wouldn't say it ruined the relationship, but it definitely strained it.
Right.
And that was me giving and never taking. Even though there was, the ask was already established because we had established the give and take, what it would be. I just never took advantage of it.
I feel this is easy to fall into though, because
it's very easy.
A, you were doing something you enjoy.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like it was really hard for you.
No.
And then B, you weren't ready.
Yeah.
Right? Like I don't want to use our agreement, but I'm going to be true to my part. Here's more blogs.
Yeah. And it didn't really, I didn't feel they were taking it, but
right.
Who knows what was going through their head. So yes, it's very easy for this to happen. So why is asking hard? Because there are plenty of people. There's plenty of people on the one side that find giving value hard, but there's plenty more on the other side that find that asking for anything is very hard.
Oh, that's me.
So why is asking hard for you?
So have I ever told you if I write a book, what the name of it would be?
I think we've gone through it.
Let them make the drinks, right? My big thing, if I can do it better and faster, then I don't need you to do it. Or
okay, lone wolf.
Yeah, right. I told you I was kind of a lone wolf. Or I don't want to inconvenience you, and I do this to my kids, and it's not helping them at all in life. But okay, they're sitting on the couch and they didn't pick up their wrappers, so I grab their wrappers and I go throw them away. I actually saw a Facebook post. This lady went on vacation, and when she came home, her two kids, we'll say high school kids, the house was just trashed. And she was livid and like ready to kill him. And then she realized, oh yeah, because I was cleaning up after him. Yeah. So for me, the challenge for me asking is because I can just do it myself.
Okay, that's definitely a reason. Another reason would be they don't know what to ask for.
I'll see, I know what to ask for. Oh, no, I guess I don't. I guess I don't.
Yeah. In every situation, you might not know what to ask for,
Right.
How big your ask should be, how urgent your ask should be, what you've earned. Those are all reasons. Some people are just they think there's going to be a confrontation. They think somebody's going to say no or get angry.
Mm-hmm.
And I certainly don't like a confrontation.
Yeah, I had to get over that in sales because I got to the point that I actually wanted a no versus a maybe.
Mhm.
And so that's when I was finally okay to ask for the sale. Because I honestly, I took the true approach of legitimately, I do want to know. Like, and if it's a no, just tell me that and I'll leave you alone.
And some people, and I have this in a similar fear. If you don't ever ask, you can tell yourself that the answer would always be yes.
Oh.
You never have to be confronted with rejection.
That's right.
So I had this in my dating life prior to. I still kind of do it with my husband. A lot of the times I won't ask, "Hey, do you want to have lunch?" or "Hey, do you want to come with me to this?" I don't say it because then in my mind I can think, well, they would have if I would have asked.
I never thought about it. Yeah, I'm really good at that too.
It's
Yep.
avoiding rejection is what it is. If you never ask, you can't be rejected,
That's true.
which is terrible. I'm not endorsing that at all. Don't do it.
But
It's
do
terrible.
know it's a super easy
But
thing
people
to
do it. Yeah,
big time.
Yes. Okay, so that's why asking is hard. So now let's look at how to ask correctly. Okay? Or to at least, you're going to get rejected. People are going to say no. Things are going to happen. So it's not saying that if you follow all these rules, your ask will be granted every single time.
So this is not a 100% you're going to make the sale.
No, no.
Okay.
But you'll have a better chance.
Okay.
So timing and size of the ask are size
Sorry.
of the ask.
Size matters. Size matters.
As does timing.
Yeah.
Okay. So you have to know the person and when the best time to ask is. And a good example here, and this can be really hard because a lot of the times in business, you don't know the person
Yep.
or you don't know them very well. So this is a lot easier to do in personal life. So like my daughter, I would never, ever, ever, ever ask her to do anything the first hour after she gets up. She's a bear.
That's my wife.
She won't look at me. She won't. And I'm more like her. Now, my husband, I would never, ever, ever ask him to do anything between 5 and 6 because that's when he is powering down and transitioning to home life and playing his video games and doesn't want to think.
Interaction.
He doesn't want
Yeah.
to think.
Right. Yeah.
And that's fine. We figured that out. So I would never ask him. And I would also never ask him to do something or to answer a question. I would never pose any ask to him when he's deep into another project.
Right. Because he really
Does
gets
not
into
like
stuff,
to
right?
be, he does
Yeah.
not like to be interrupted. He has a tough time switching lanes. So I would never ask him at that time. So Dan, my business partner, tells me he listens to all these podcasts so I can passive aggressively give him advice. Never ever ask me anything when I'm sitting here eating lunch.
Oh, you're the don't mess with my lunch. Huh? I feel bad when I talk to people that are eating lunch. Like I do.
I hate it. And I'm just like, you didn't see I'm over here eating lunch. I'm going to try and rush you away from me as much as possible. So whatever you're asking me for,
That's not right.
yeah, don't do it. He also likes to ask me things as I'm walking out the door for the day.
See?
And that used to be a lot worse when he was in the same office with me.
Yeah.
And I think with him, he just kind of forgot until, oh shit, she's leaving.
Yep.
I better ask really quickly. And it was even to the point, because I told Delaney, my daughter, who comes to the office with me a lot, about this. And he did it as we were walking out one day. And she's like, Mom, sure enough, just as you were leaving. I'm like, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so those are terrible times to ask me for things. But once you get to know somebody, you can know those things.
Mm-hmm.
But that is not always possible.
Right.
But I mean, you can do some generalizations, say you're talking to a caterer. Well, you would never call them over the lunch hour, or you would,
See?
so kind of industry specific, or, if there was just a huge storm, you wouldn't go call all your roofers and try and get them to do something for you because that'd be a terrible time to do it.
And I'm an idiot, so I would. Just like,
Well, don't.
okay, cool. I'll fix that.
So you can do some generalizations, but if you know the person, if you've done business with them before, if they're a personal friend, you can usually find some of these things out.
Mm-hmm.
When is a prime time to ask them when they'll have time to consider my request? They're in a good mood. You don't always know, but you can at least try. So your ask This is size. We're going to size of the ask.
Ooh, size of the ask.
The size has to match what you've earned.
Mm-hmm.
And so an example of doing this incorrectly would be I made my husband breakfast and then I asked him to remodel the deck. Something like that, where you've given very little value and then you make an enormous ask. And now with a relationship, it's different because it's not all give, ask, give. It doesn't balance out like that. But like say with social media. Oh, okay, I made a nice joke and I gave a helpful article and then I asked someone to buy my $7,000 program.
Yikes.
So that would be a mismatched ask.
Mm-hmm.
So you do have to remember you're giving that 80-20, but sometimes that 20% can be enormous depending on what type of business you're in. If you're asking for a new roof, if you're asking for somebody to buy a house with you, you have to earn a lot of equity before you can make an ask like that.
Right.
And that's going to lead to my next thing, which I believe we've talked about this, and I'll probably give the exact same example because it's a very powerful one. The stair-step principle. So that means making a little ask first, and then building on top of that a little bit bigger ask, and then a little bit bigger one. Getting a bigger ask kind of happens when you eat too
That
much.
ask is getting big.
Yes, build on it. So you make little asks before you get to the big one because a very large ask can be extremely off-putting. Whether you've earned it or not, it can be extremely off-putting. But a good sales technique is you get them to start agreeing to things, even if they're free things. Hey, sign up for this and get our free white paper. No money's been exchanged. You've not tried to sell them anything, but they've had to agree to something. You've asked, they've said yes. And so then the next can be trying to sell them something little. Okay, now that you've done this, give a little bit more value. And then here's a $99 starter course. So that's a little bit bigger ask. And then they've done that. You've given them more value after that. Okay, how about our $329 mid-level package? So a stair-step principle. And I'll tell my story really quick because I know I think I did a couple episodes ago, but I was working with this company or was starting to interact with this brand. And they were like a woman's hormone balancing, through natural. I'm a total hippie. So, it was through food and not that, but crystals. No, it wasn't crystals. But it was supplements.
Sure.
And so I'd started to interact with the brand, signed up for their free, it was like a 3-week food plan or something. Okay. And they'd been giving me a lot of value, signed up for the 3-week food plan. Next thing, they asked me to sign up for $2,500 coaching. That was their next ask.
Jeez.
After a free menu.
Yeah.
The next ask was almost $3,000, and I completely stopped interacting with them.
Yep.
And if they would have done like I, gave the example before, oh, here's a $39 cookbook. Oh, here's
that
a...
That even makes sense because it was a food plan, and now we're talking coaching.
Right.
Yeah.
It was just a huge discrepancy. But if they would have led me on the path, it's possible I would have done that $2,500 coaching a year down the line because they would have earned that size of an ask. But they didn't, and so they lost me completely. So stair-step principle, don't just make a humongous ask out of the gates, build up to it.
And we talk about that in networking too, where people even get mad that people aren't using their services. And it's like, okay, well, first off, what have you done? Right? We always look at ourselves, what have you done? But then as you have said, if you are asking for me to bring all my assets over to you and everything, that's going to be a little bit.
Right.
Don't be mad that I just got my carpets cleaned by the guy that charged me $300 to do it. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. So the next thing you have to do is make sure your ask is strategic. Okay, so you can't just come out and be like, will you do this? So a strategic goal is a SMART goal.
Oh.
SMART, SMART. Nobody knows how to spell SMART. You can just go away. But
well, I gotta leave.
Did you put an E on it? SMART-A?
No.
A little. No. Okay, a SMART goal. S, specific. Okay, so it needs to trigger people's memory of what and who they know and how they can help, or it needs to trigger some sort of need in them. Okay, so specific.
Yep.
Next is meaningful. It needs to convey why the request is important to you and motivate others to respond. So don't just come out and be like, hey, can you buy this from me? There's got to be something that is meaningful of why you're asking and meaningful to the person that you're asking.
Right.
Okay. A is action oriented, a call to action to achieve your goals. So this means you're telling them exactly what you want them to do. So an example of doing this poorly would be doing like an ad campaign and never having a CTA on it. So people see it, they're like, oh, they look like they're fun to work with, but I don't even know what they want me to do.
Can't get to it, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
And so action-oriented would be click here for a consultation, or click here for a free white paper, or call this number
Yeah,
to,
that's what I was
tell them
thinking. Yep.
exactly what you want them to do, because people don't want to think.
It's
They
true.
want to be like, hey, they've given me a lot of value. I'd like to take an action, but tell me what it is.
Yeah.
And if they have to think of it on their own, they probably aren't going to do it. So action oriented. The R is realistic. So your request must be strategically sound and feasible. So yeah, don't ask somebody something that they cannot do.
Yeah. Like,
Or that it would be very, 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 very difficult for them to do. So you wouldn't ask, that would be like you coming to me and asking for me to switch all of my finances over to your guy when I'm married to a financial planner,
yeah,
which actually happens to me quite frequently.
that's funny.
Even when I tell the people I am married to a financial planner, well, do you still want to sit down and have a meeting? I can go over your,
No.
I'm married to a
I don't.
financial planner.
Yep.
I don't know what else to say. So stop asking me something I can never, ever give you.
It's not real.
It's not realistic. And then the last one is time bound. So every request should have a due date. So if you say, hey, can you go look at my website? Well, they could technically go look at your website next year
Yep.
and would be fulfilling your request.
That's right.
So the way to do that would be, hey, I'm really trying to get some eyes on my website and get some feedback in the next week. Do you think you could take a look at it and tell me what you think?
I like that.
Because if people can procrastinate, they usually will.
Yep. I did that with my follow-up. Once I got better at sales, is I would say, great. I understand you're not ready today. What's a day that I can call you where I won't be bugging you?
Yeah.
And then I'd always present it that way, because then when I did bug them, they gave me the time that they
Right.
said I'm not.
And then they would have to apologize if, hey, I know I told you this was a good time, but now my kid's in the bath or whatever.
Yeah, but I'm in sales, so don't need to apologize.
Yeah.
I'll call you tomorrow.
I'll call you again. So the next part's a little hard, especially for tender hearts, like I think both of us are.
That's true.
What happens when the ask is rejected?
Oh,
Because it happens no matter how good you do, no matter how much value you give, you're making your smart asks,
mm-hmm.
they get rejected. So number one, don't take it personally.
So hard.
And it's hard in business. It's 10 times as hard in personal life.
Oh, yeah.
That's why I wouldn't ask even now, I kind of avoid asking my husband to do some things because I don't want to be rejected,
Mm-hmm.
because I take it personally. And then I start thinking, what does that mean? Oh, if we had a good marriage, he'd want to go to lunch with me. Those demon thoughts start
Yep.
running, which are stupid, but you can't tell
part of
me.
it.
Can't tell me you've never had them, or who's more important than me to have lunch with, or
See, I answer it before I ask. Does that make sense? Like, I already know that I can't, I have a golf event coming up and there's a doctor's appointment that I need to go with Liz. So at first I'm like, oh yeah, there's just no way. And then I built up the courage and I asked, and I presented it with, all these alternatives.
yeah.
And her response was, you've got my support. Let me know how I can help. And I'm like, great. Well, that's not the answer I thought was coming, but awesome.
It's always nice when it's better than you think.
Right. So I reject myself. I take it like,
Okay.
I reject
I know you
myself
can't do
before I
this.
even get
Okay.
that. Right. Exactly.
Oh yeah,
Exactly.
I totally do that. Well, they wouldn't do it anyway. So.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
But when they do say no, don't take it personally. Most of the time, it's not about you. It's about 800 other things that are, when we think things are about us all the time, it's actually a pretty egotistical, narcissistic
Yep.
way of thinking of things, because it's like, no, it probably has nothing to do with
Yeah,
you
right. Nope.
whatsoever.
Yep.
So don't take it personal. Number two, review the ask. What'd you do wrong? Was there no time frame on it? Was it not realistic? Had you not earned the right to ask for that? Was it ambiguous? Was it the wrong timing? So review it. See if it was a solid ask or not. And then determine the why. And so this is a good one that you can use probably more easily in a personal setting, I would say, than a business setting.
Ken.
So say you make an ask, it gets rejected, you've taken it personally, as we are wont
Yep.
to do. And going back to them after you've calmed down, if you are feeling hurt or whatever, and saying, hey, I asked this and you weren't able to, what way could I have stated it better? Or what could I have done that would have, and if you have good friendships, relationships, business partnerships, you should be able to have these conversations.
But all I can think of is like a spousal fights, right? And in the middle of being like, well, how could I have done this better? That never
Not
goes
that way.
well. But remember, this is after the fact
This
that
is
we're
after.
talking about.
As I said, make sure the emotion is gone.
Yes, I like
And
that.
you can
I
talk
like
about
that.
things rationally, but my husband and I do a good job of that. It's like, how could we have done this better so that that would not have happened
After the fact.
after
Yep.
the fact?
Yep.
Usually a day or so
That's
after.
good. Hey, however long it takes.
But it's like, okay, what happened here? Why did one of us get triggered and it went off the rails? How can we do this so it turns out
Yeah.
better next time? So ask the why. And then use it to become better. So all of that stuff, you've reviewed it. You've hopefully been able to talk to the other person. Why was this rejected? How can we make this a yes next time? Or how can we change this next time? Learn from it. Learn from it and grow. Don't dwell on it. So a lot of people, in sales, they get a no and they're bummed
End of
all
the
day
line.
and they hit the
End of the
bar.
day. Yep.
and, I'm not cut out for this. Or, and you ask your best friend, you asked them 4 times in a row to go out and they've said no every time. And you start, well, we're not really friends. But so don't dwell on it. And then focus on the next deposit.
Mm.
So don't focus on the next. You've made your ask. It got rejected.
Yep.
You've still made your ask. You've blown your 20. You've blown your 20%.
Yep.
You got to start over. So even if the ask was rejected, it still counts as an ask. So
sure.
go back to building the equity.
Is that the end of the list? I don't want to.
Know when to
No,
follow
okay.
up and ask again is
Okay.
the last one.
So that was, I agree personally, this fit a little better, but in business, I think the use it to become better and ask what I could have done differently. Especially if it's business to business, if you kind of hit it off with a consumer, then you could probably do this, but business to business, if you're going for some big dogs, probably most of them would be more than happy to give you that feedback
Mhm.
because if anything, you're making a deposit by doing that. I know it's kind of an ask, but you're building credibility with them because you're the one salesperson that finally said, what did I miss here?
Right.
Now, I think the arrogant salesperson tries to turn around and do it again instantly, which shouldn't.
Right.
But if you can use that towards the next one, that's where I feel successful salespeople do well because they take the feedback, they adjust what they're doing. They follow what you just went through to go to the next sale then.
And maybe only 1 out of 10 are actually going to explain what you did,
Correct.
but that one's going to be very valuable.
It will be.
Very
As
valuable.
long as you use it.
Yeah. Don't.
Because you know what I do?
Mm.
He's wrong. I know what he said, but I'm good at that.
And you also have to be able to, because they might be wrong.
Oh.
Or, maybe 10% of what they say is wrong, 90% is useful. Take what you can out of it that you can use to get better.
Good.
Okay, so top tips on making the ask.
Mm.
Buzz through these quick. Number 1, don't apologize for asking. We all know those people. I'm sorry, but do you have just 5 minutes? I'm sorry, but can you please go look at my website? Hey, I don't mean to bug you. I know you're super busy. I'm sorry. Don't apologize. Right then, you're putting yourself that you shouldn't be asking.
Yeah,
Is
well,
what you're basically saying.
Then you're setting yourself up for a no.
Yeah, you're saying, I know I haven't earned this, but I'm going to do it anyway. Yeah, don't apologize. Be explicit. I don't mean explicit, but specific.
Mm.
Be specific. Ask for what you want. Don't pussyfoot around it. Don't passive aggressively. Come out and be like, this is what I'm asking for.
Yes.
Because people can't fulfill it if they don't know what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So be specific, which is a better word than explicit. I don't know why I have explicit. Don't ask for explicit things. Never earn them. Don't ask large groups. So I love this one because there is so much research on this that if you make an ask to a large group, everybody's going to think that somebody else in that group is going to do it.
Oh, so then I'm off.
So they don't have to do it.
Yeah.
So even if it's sign my petition after I'm done speaking or go look at my website or sign up for this, everybody's like, there's 30 people in this room. I'm sure at least 10 will do it. I don't have to.
Mm,
So don't ask a broad, large group for something.
wow.
Because
That's
just
tough.
human psychology, they're going to think someone else will do it.
So and I hate to say this, but is the fortune and the follow-up on that then? Like you should collect some type of communication and
then ask them specifically.
make it more precise. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And then, make sure if they've signed into the event or whatever it is, they're in your group, email each one specifically, call them and make the ask specifically.
I feel, and I talked about this with referrals in a different episode, it's like the more time you put into this, the better success you will have of other people doing things that you want them to do.
And this is actually the same phenomena of the bystander phenomena. And that's like if somebody's getting mugged in front of you and there's a whole group of people, no one will go help because they think somebody else is going to go do it.
Yeah.
And so they don't. And this is one of the most powerful quotes. And somebody can tell me who said it because I can't remember, but it's really, it's a famous person who said it was, I looked around and wondered why nobody was doing anything. And then I realized I was somebody.
I believe that was Jules Verne.
Good. If it is, I owe you a beer. It's not Jules Verne. Or I think it was, I wondered why wasn't anybody, or why didn't someone do something? That's what it was. I looked around and wondered why someone didn't do something. And then I realized I was someone.
Yeah, that's powerful.
Yeah, because we do that so much. I can't believe they're blah, blah, blah. I can't believe nobody helped, blah, blah, blah. Well, are you helping?
Right. No.
Are you doing something about it? You always think somebody else will do it. So next is be you. Don't be weird. Don't be stilted. Don't be... When my husband will ask me to do something, sometimes he'll send me a text like I'm his accountant. I'm like, am I your wife or did we just... Are you running for president?
Transaction here.
They're so dry and so polite. And I'm just like,
You're
dude,
for something, aren't you?
I hate that. I'm just like, I'm your wife. Come on. But be yourself. Yeah, be who you are. Obviously have some tact, but be yourself. Have a plan B. That means, and that plan B could be, okay, I'm going to ask them for something a little bit less. It could be, I'm going to ask them to do the same thing, but on a different day.
Sure.
Or it could be, okay, my plan B is to go back to building equity and try it again.
I think that's where I usually default to.
Yeah, but have a plan B. Otherwise, you ask, and then what?
And then, yeah, yep. But
and then what? Have a sounding board. So this is someone you trust, someone, not a yes man, somebody who will be honest with you and say, hey, I plan to ask John XYZ. This is how I plan to approach it. Pick some holes in it for me. What could I do better? Does this sound good?
You know, I always loved in the heavy networking world when people would ask for a one-to-one and they would specify, look, I'll be honest with you, I need to work on my sales pitch and I want feedback. I always respect. Now, those who set up a one-to-one and do a sales pitch, totally different. But when they would set the expectation going in, I was so ready. And you're kind of picking it apart as you're listening to give that feedback.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember Heath Berg?
I do not.
Okay, he was big in the networking world when I was first getting into it, and he did a send out cards. You know, when that was super popular, and he did that with me a few different times. And you know what? It made me feel really special.
Okay.
That he was asking for that feedback, and I'm like, because I'm so good at sales,
Absolutely.
Of course you're asking me. So I think there's huge value in that, but you have to set the expectation, otherwise you're just selling.
Okay, I like that. The next tip is, Alexandra Carter wrote a wonderful book on asking. Why are you giggling about that?
Is that where the quote came from?
No. No, it did not. But everybody should read this book. Alexandra Carter, look her up. But she has Ask for More is the name of the book. That might help. She has a technique in there, or a concept, it's really more of a concept, called land the plane. And she said this is where a lot of people screw up when they make an ask because they ask it. So let me come up with... Brandon, would you come and help us man the booth next week at our trade show?
Okay.
Now, I know that you're probably really busy, and I know it's going to take a lot of time, but we really need someone. And what did I just do?
Sure. Well, what time? You talked me out of the sale.
Yeah, I didn't let you answer.
Yep.
So landing the plane means you ask the question, and then you wait until you get a response. And that could mean a second. It could mean 30 seconds. It could mean 2 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a classic negotiation, technique. Whoever speaks first loses. Yeah. But if you're asking for anything, you don't know what they're going to say, especially if you don't know the person very well. So like if I take a lot of time to answer, it means I'm thinking it through.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a good thing. You're going to get a very authentic answer from me that I am going to follow through on. Rather than putting me on the spot and I say yes, and I'm like, how am I going to get out of this? How am I going to get out of this? So
when I learned that whoever speaks first loses. And I loved that game. Like because I talked so much.
Yeah.
It was like really hard for me. But I had a sales training and I think he put it in a much better terminology. Like it wasn't as catchy, but he goes, look, you just told somebody that it's going to cost them $3,000 to do their kitchen. You also just told them all about your product. You told them about the installation. You just filled their head with 45 minutes of jumbo and you expect a response in how long? He goes, when you put that price down, all of that is now flipping through their head. They're going through every tiny little bit of piece. And when you start talking, they've stopped processing it then. And that is why you lose the sale.
Yep, absolutely. So land the plane. The next, make it in their best interest. So that exact same ask that I made of you, how could I have done that better?
Giving me details and telling me where I would fit great in this situation.
Hey, Brandon, we're having a trade show next week and it's all going to be bankers. And I know that you want to meet these bankers to help grow your business. There's going to be like 50 or 60 of them there. Would you like to be at our booth and help out a little bit and be able to meet them?
Yep.
Doesn't that sound a lot better?
That sounds way better.
Yeah. Make it in their best interest. Don't lie and don't be weird because sometimes it's really not in their best interest.
Yep.
You know, sometimes you got to make an ask. You know, if I'm going to ask Todd to pick up my daughter, I'm not going to be like, hey, you could stop at her bar and have a drink if you got there. Which that would be, if you did that to me, I'd be like, okay.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's the case. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm asking him to do something that he probably doesn't want to do. That's going to take away from his schedule, but I've earned it, and he'll do it. If I try and make it seem like you really want to do this, it's manipulative.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I said, it would work for me. Because
yeah,
you throw a drink onto any request, I'm like, yes, okay.
Sounds pretty cool.
What are we doing? Be high energy. You know, you never want to be like, hey, we got a trade show next week.
Uh-oh.
I know it's going to suck, but who wants to say yes to
I've had people say that to me. Yeah. Listen, man, it's really going to suck.
Yeah, you already want to say no.
We only need you for an hour and a half of volunteering.
It's going to be terrible, but it's only for an hour. Yeah, be high energy. Get them excited about whatever you're asking them for, if you can. You know, again, Todd, guess what? You get to go pick up my daughter. I mean, there are some times that doesn't work.
Just not.
But if you can, and then the last one is don't let this be the end of the relationship. And I think that can happen a lot in new friendships. It can happen a lot in just getting to know a stranger type of relationships. It can happen a lot in new business relationships. You make an ask, it gets rejected, and all of a sudden you never want to talk to them again. But it can also be you make an ask, you get a yes, they do whatever it is, and then you think it's done. Well, there we go. Transaction finished.
That's transaction.
On to the next one. So whether it's a yes, whether it's a no, don't ever let that be the end of the relationship.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's about all I had for making the ask. I don't believe I flubbed up too many times with that word.
Didn't miss it once.
Do you have any other thoughts on that, Brandon?
No, I think I jumped in where I feel, because this was probably in my first true sale, my first year of true sales. This is where I failed, and I didn't make the ask. Now that's more focused on the sales side, not kind of the engagement equity concept. But where once you get comfortable, because it's uncomfortable, right? But once you get comfortable with the ask and get comfortable with the rejection, because if you're asking for anything, you have the possibility to get rejected. That is when your mind will shift, and it's not a fear anymore. I think it's more curiosity. And for me in sales, that's what I'm more curious. Did I make this sale?
Yeah, that's like curiosity is the best default to go to to avoid feeling rejected, to avoid taking things personally.
Right.
Just be curious. Yeah.
And so that's really what has helped me in my sales and in personal life too, because I feel I am better at asking, although I can get way better, I know. So that's my big thing, is when you do that mind shift of curiosity, like how'd you do versus is it a yes or a no? That's when it gets a little easier.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, everyone. I hope you learned a little bit about the ask today. And Brandon and I look forward to talking to you next time.